Okay. The elections, which are coming up on the the actual electioneering begins in 2 weeks' time. Is that right?
Nominations officially open on the 15th of September.
Right.
So, although you'd think seeing some of the signage and things like that around the municipality,
it's already
happening.
I know. I walk up and down Centre Road and I see Councillor Lobo's photo in every second shop window. But I guess one of the unusual things about this coming election is that for the first time it will be exclusively postal voting rather than toting off to being able to go to the booth and see people and shake their hands and having candidates be able to shake my hand.
I think just to correct, we have had postal before. The last
exclusively postal.
Yes, the last couple of elections have been attendance.
Right.
Every council can make a decision.
Yeah.
But I think about meeting and greeting candidates, that will still happen. Just not on election day, but I suppose I think
this makes it a bit harder because they're captured when they go to the polling booth.
Yeah, I know as being a candidate, you can really only stay at one booth all day, so
yes.
You have helpers, but certainly you'll probably see a lot of candidates down Centre Road in your area.
Yep.
Yeah, and you'll have the ability to meet and greet, and there are, as I understand, a few candidate forum nights coming up as well, organised.
Yeah, I understand there are too, which is good, but obviously not a lot of people are able to go to those things. I guess it puts it requires a different spin for you as councillors on how you actually tackle the electorate. Because I mean, the funny thing about local government, I always think, is that it's the most immediate form of government that we as residents receive. Garbage collection's been the obvious one, planning, all of those sorts of things. But it's the one that we seem to be least interested in, which is odd. We don't know it. We don't know our councillors, so it's hard for them to get to know us.
Oh, look, I suppose it varies. I suppose, like I walk down Nearham Road to get my paper every day to the newsagent, and I come back with a list of things to do, basically, from people.
Someone's
which becomes my list of things to do.
I can imagine.
Pass on to Rebecca and that. So I think people do appreciate their local councillors because they do see them in the shops far more than their state or federal counterparts.
Right.
So I think engaging is very important. It is
absolutely.
It's really important because local government's the most immediate grassroots type of government, and most things that affect you, whether it is the planning or your hard rubbish collection, or your parks or your kids' sport, come out of councils and local governments. So it is important. Yeah.
So why have we gone for exclusively postal voting this time around?
Well, we technically each council can decide.
Yep.
Most councils historically have gone postal. A few reasons for that. It's becoming increasingly expensive to do a attendance election.
Right.
Paying the Victoria Electoral Commission.
Yep.
It's also research shows that postal gets a higher rate of participation.
Right.
And it's probably more, especially for older people, it's probably a more easier way.
It's more convenient.
It's more convenient. So for
those
reasons,
butchers won't sell a lot of sausages for this coming election.
Well, that's one of the downsides. I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So, but it's mainly driven by cost, is it?
It has. Unfortunately, what's happened because we found the difference this year to 4 years ago was $200,000, and I suppose the council group felt that was too much to spend on ratepayers' money. Given there are pros and cons of each way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
There's most councils now do postal, and we decided to go that way this time. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is the issue of how people vote is actually one of the things that the state government's considering at the moment as part of their review of the Local Government Act. So one of the things that they're considering is whether they should actually mandate that just everybody is postal or everybody is attendance or everybody is online even.
Well, I think online is going to be very difficult after we had the hacking incident with our census. I think online voting
for a little while,
is dead and buried for quite a while.
I think it's put it back a generation.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks really hard. So this council's been sitting for 4 years, these councillors, right?
Yep.
How many resolutions would have been passed in that time? And I guess the burden on you, how many of them have actually been implemented? How does...
Too many to count, probably.
I couldn't tell you the number of resolutions, but I have to say that one of the things that a council does when it first gets elected is to actually put in place a council plan, and that's their sort of 4-year plan of activity that they'd like to see delivered. Mm-hmm. And I have to say that we report sort of regularly on how council is tracking against delivering that plan. And I think the last statistics that I saw was about 90% of the council plan had actually been been delivered during this council's term. So in my experience in local government, that's actually a pretty good record. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And Rebecca's right. Certainly in the organisational performance, there are KPIs, and 90% is the threshold, and I think we've met it as far as I've been the last 4 years. So we do judge our performance, and I suppose that ultimately the council group will judge Rebecca and the organisation's performance, but the voters will judge the council's performance. They have the opportunity in October. Yeah.
Can I bring up the issue of GSAC because GSAC's an interesting development for a council to be in. It's a massive and probably a very expensive investment.
The biggest one we'll ever do.
Yeah, and you are also running a gymnasium there as well as.
There's a number of features there.
I guess one of the questions I have is why are you in competition with private industry running local gyms in the area as well, because there's actually quite a lot. When I go for I just go for a stroll. I don't go to a gym anymore. Too much money, money, and I don't go. But there's a lot of gyms around. So does council really need to run a gym as well?
I don't think so.
I think, Gary, that the issue is that GSAC is far more than a gym.
Absolutely.
Gym is probably one of the smallest elements of GSAC's operations.
Just for people who don't know, GSAC is essentially, it was an old swimming pool. It's now a beautiful, big, modern
Glen Eira
pool.
Sports and Aquatic Centre.
That's right.
It's the most successful in Australia, or with not Victoria, not Australia. Bigger membership than MSAC, which is the Melbourne Sports and Aquatic Centre, which is 15,000 members. So I
guess I was surprised when I saw it start actually, because there's a pool not about 3 kilometres away in Kingston Council, I guess it is. The other one in.
But I think when we were designing and going through the whole consultation about what to do with the old Bentley pool, I suppose it's the days of the Memorial Outdoor Pool being built are probably over. They were built after the 1956 Olympics.
Absolutely.
We still keep Carnegie and refurbish it as an outdoor pool, much loved. But we have to look to the future. And I think the way GSAC, with our indoor sporting, all abilities, basketball courts, the physio, the childcare, the hydrotherapy pools, we made it really a one-stop shop for health and fitness. But what we're finding in relation to your question, we, in some ways, standalone gyms which operate 24/7 close to Bentley, GSAC are doing quite well because they can offer a niche service which we can't. So I think there's room for both.
I guess the issue is it making money? Because it was obviously a very costly investment, which would have taken a big loan to get up and all of those sorts of things. So is it actually making money?
We got 10 million from the feds, 5 million from the state, and the ratepayers, Glen Eira, put in the 25. We borrowed that. But saying that, the good thing about it at the moment, all the costs are running GSAC, and now it's paying for itself. So the ratepayers aren't paying any extra each year.
Okay.
And it's a really successful model, and certainly we have visitations from councils from all over Victoria coming to say, how do you do it? And I think council has stepped in to provide some services that aren't necessarily commercially viable for a private sector provider to operate, like, for example, the rehab pool and things like that. So in order to make that work from a commercial perspective, we've complemented it with some of the additional services that we know help to make a facility like that more profitable, which is about providing some of the gym services and the classes and things like that. So in totality, we can provide some services that the commercial world can't provide, but not at a cost to the ratepayers. So the ratepayers aren't subsidising.
That's the bottom line. It's value for money for the ratepayers.
And one interesting statistic is, like, when GSAC opened 4 years ago, I mean, there was a great rush to join. The numbers have stayed well. Interestingly, the attendance figures at Carnegie Outdoor Pool have stayed high.
Is that right?
That's great. So we've grown the pie.
Okay.
And we certainly look forward to partnering with the state and federal government about refurbishing Carnegie Pool in the years to come.
And we've got 14,000 members at GSAC now, so that's pretty significant.
That is. One last issue I want to bring up with you, and that is Burren Park or whatever it's
Boron
called.
Reservoir?
Yeah, that's right. That's taken an awful long time. In the time that's being constructed, and it's still not finished. We've got rid of 3 railway crossings and built 3 new rail stations.
There's a bit of history to that.
All sorts of stuff. What's going on there?
Well, the good news is it will be open later this year, and if you go past,
that's good.
If you go past, you see a lot of activity happening. Be a wonderful facility. The history of that is it was an old disused dam site for the MMBW.
Yes.
We were given it in 2008, but we weren't given the money to clear it. And so, and that cost several million just to clear the bunker, the concrete bunker. So it's taken time. In the meantime, we built GSAC, we built Duncan McKinnon. It just takes time, and councils have to plan long term. I think we've got our plans in place. But yes, we'll be really glad to see it open. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Rebecca and Neil, thank you very much for talking to the Max today.
A pleasure.
It's been great to have you here, and I know that over the next few weeks we're going to see a lot more of local government as the elections approach.